Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at some more problems of finding area and perimeter of shapes in a coordinate plane. And if you look at these shapes and you compare them to the shapes that we were working with in the last section, you're going to notice that they're not the straight on the XY axis or the straight horizontal or vertical. So with these we're going to have to use the distance formula between multiple points in order to be able to find the area or the perimeter of the values. So looking at this first example, it says, what is the area and the perimeter? So if you look at this picture, it looks like a square, but it doesn't tell us it's a square, so we can't assume that it is one. So what we have to do to find out one way or the other is we've got to find the distance from one side, from one point to another, and then find the distance of another side, and if both of those sides are the same length, it's safe to say that you've got a square. So the way we're going to find the distance from H to I is we're going to have to use that distance formula. And if you remember, the distance formula is equal to x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. So if we use our distance formula for HI is going to be equal to, and that says the distance of HI is going to be equal to x1, so 0 minus 9 squared plus 8 minus 2 squared. So HI is going to be equal to the square root of negative 9 squared plus 8 minus 2 is 6 squared. So HI is going to be equal to the square root of 81 plus 36. So HI is going to be equal to the square root of 117. Now notice it says write your answer as an integer, which means a whole number, or as a decimal rounded to the nearest tenth. And whenever we're rounding, we don't want to round here. We're going to want to round at the very end. So we're going to want to keep HI to be the square root of 117 till we're finding the perimeter in the area. And I'll show you how that works here in a minute. So for HI, we found that to be the square root of 117. And if we have a square, then FI will be the square root of 117 as well. So if we try that out, FI is going to be equal to the square root of 3 minus 9 quantity squared plus negative 7 minus 2 quantity squared. So FI is going to be equal to the square root of 3 minus 9 is going to be a negative 6 squared plus 7 minus 2, negative 9 squared. So FI is going to be equal to the square root of 36 plus 81. So FI is going to be equal to the square root of 117. So we found HI to be 117, and we found FI to be the square root of 117. So it's safe to say that we're working with the square. So it wants to know what is the area and the perimeter both. So let's do the area first. Area is going to be equal to base times height or side squared, whichever way you solve it out. So area is going to be equal to square root of 117 times the square root of 117. And you would actually put that in your calculator exactly as you see it, but you've got to hit second square root, and you've got to do 117, and then close the parenthesis to tell the calculator that it's just that square root, and then you're going to want to hit times, second, and then the x squared button again, the square root, 117, close the parenthesis, equals, and there's your area is equal to 117 units squared. So there's our area. Now for our perimeter. Perimeter is going to be equal to all the sides added together, or 4 times the side. So perimeter is going to be equal to 4 times the square root of 117. So if we do that way, we've got 4 times the square root of 117. And notice that'll give us perimeter is going to be equal to 43.2661531. But if you look at the directions say a decimal rounded to the nearest tenth. So if you're looking at tenths, tenths is that first decimal spot. So remember, if this number is 5 or above, this rounds up. If it's 4 or below, it's going to stay the same. So perimeter is going to be equal to 6 is above 5, so 43.3 units. And there's our perimeter. Looking at the next example, they want us to again write the answer as an integer or a decimal rounded to the nearest tenth. And for this example, they want to know what is the area and the perimeter both. So this looks like a rectangle. So if it is a rectangle, we got to find WV, and then we need to find the distance of VY if we're going to use our... So looking at this example right here, they want to know what is the area and the perimeter, and we need to make sure that we write our answer as an integer or a decimal rounded to the nearest tenth for all of these on this page. So it wants to know what is the area. Area is going to be equal to base times height in a rectangle. Well, this would be our base and that would be our height. So that means that we would need to know WV and VY. So in order to be able to find those distances, we would have to use the distance formula.